Hello, I'm CJ Wellerman. We're recording this episode on the road again, but please don't forget to subscribe to our show. Now let's get into it. CNN is not only the world's largest cable and television news network, but also it has become an indispensable propaganda tool for the American and Israeli war machines, which I wrote about here way back in 2015. But during the past few weeks, as Israel commits mass murder in Gaza, killing 2,500 Palestinian children since October 7th, CNN has become the world's #1 enabler of genocide by helping Israel and the United States conceal their savagery, barbarity, and blatant war crimes from international audiences. Even former CNN journalists are now calling out the network for its history of pro-Israel lies and manipulation. What Awa Damon wrote in her courageous article last week says it all, when she writes, and I quote, "We can no longer be a pawn of manipulation. We need to give more space to Palestinians, and we all need to listen to their words as if we are hearing them for the first time." End quote. And the words the Palestinian people are using in their criticism of CNN should be shouted from the rooftops, because it's they who bear the brunt of this deceit. They are accusing the international cable news giant of enabling their annihilation at the hands of Israeli occupation forces and their American backers.
Happens. So, all right.
You are genocide supporters. Okay. You are not welcome here. Genocide supporters. CNN.
All right. You see that people are very angry. They do not like the way in which that CNN has been reporting the story. You hear that, but.
Palestinians are pleading for media attention because Israel is murdering them inside a steel cage and in the darkness of night, as tens of thousands of Israeli missiles rain down on Gaza, annihilating entire cities, causing genocide-scale death and destruction, and leaving its inhabitants without medical care, food, water, and electricity. This is what human rights experts and conflict journalists liken to a medieval siege. But while these war crimes and crimes against humanity are taking place, CNN journalists are producing their reports from the safety and comfort of Tel Aviv, where the network invites one Israeli spokesperson on after another to convince you that Israel is somehow defending itself by murdering more than 3,500 Palestinian women, babies, and young children. But CNN wants the world to believe that Israel is targeting Hamas, when in fact Israel is exterminating the next Palestinian generation. And everybody knows it, including more than 300 Jewish Holocaust survivors who accuse the Zionist apartheid regime of genocide. But these are the Jewish people you'll never see on CNN, because these are the Jewish people who understand that the state of Israel is constructed on the dispossession, displacement, and extermination of the Palestinian people. Which is why the network invites only those who push and echo a narrative that synchronizes with official Israeli and US government policy. And Palestinian people know this because they experience these horrors at the same time they're watching CNN erase their victimhood.
Where's your condemnation? Where's your channel covering this? Cover this! Say the truth, we understand you're an employee. You're just a puppet, you're just a mouthpiece. Come talk to me like a human being. Come talk to me like a human being. Thank you. I understand you have your foreign policy. No, I've heard you. I've heard you. You hear me. I understand you have your foreign policy. I understand you speak for your government. I understand you represent your government. But that being said, you're a country that's plain free speech. Your customized democracy is actually what led to Hamas. And now we are watching an occupation, and we are watching the result of your silence, of your misrepresentation of.
Now, if CNN were objective and honest and committed to the truth, it would not only share Palestinian voices with the world, but also invite Jewish Israeli commentators who are willing to speak honestly about the way Israel manipulates the media into believing Israel is the victim. Watch here as Jewish Israeli journalist Gideon Levy explains.
I know many occupations which were longer than the Israeli occupation. Some were even more brutal, even though it's getting harder and harder to be more brutal than the Israeli occupation. I don't recall one occupation in which the occupier present himself as the victim. Not only the victim, the only victim.
For the remainder of this episode, I will reveal how CNN is preparing American and global audiences for the next phase of Israel's bloody assault on Gaza, which will result in the worst kind of bloodshed Palestinians have suffered since the 1948 genocide known as the Nakba. But first, let's examine why and how CNN deceives American audiences on behalf of Israel. And we start this story in the year 1980, when CNN launched as the world's first 24/7 news channel.
Stand by, ready 3, take 3, Mike here. 3, start to slow zoom in a little bit. Roll tape, take 3. Ready 13, full. Ready camera 3, 1 center up.
Good evening, I'm David Walker.
And I'm Lois Hart. Now here's the news.
But for the first decade of the network's existence, hardly anybody tuned in. Its ratings were abysmal, leaving it facing bankruptcy in 1989. It's not an exaggeration to say that CNN was headed towards the dustbin of history. That is, until its fortunes suddenly took an unexpected turn on the 2nd of August 1990, the day Saddam Hussein ordered his forces into Kuwait, which in turn invoked US President George H. Bush to send 500,000 US soldiers into the Middle East under the banner of Operation Desert Storm. The first Iraq War made CNN an instant hit, because American audiences were desperate for a foreign military victory that would erase the bitter and humiliating memories of the Vietnam War 2 decades earlier. CNN saw an opportunity to make Americans feel proud again of their military and American empire, and possibly for the first time since the Second World War. So it opportunistically produced content that evangelized the virtues of US military power in the Middle East, while blending flag-waving American jingoism with militaristic bombast and real-time combat footage. This first Iraq War turned the failing CNN into a global news juggernaut. Its 24-hour news model revolutionized the entire news media industry. But the number one lesson CNN learnt from its experience in 1991 is that war in the Middle East is a boon for business. It's business. And this lesson was capitalized into $1 billion profits a full decade later, when the United States government under George W. Bush began spinning lies about WMDs in Iraq to justify his imperialistic project for a new American century in the Middle East. And nobody cheered louder and harder for the criminal Iraq invasion than CNN. A study conducted in 2008 found that the Bush administration made at least 935 false statements in the 2 years following the September 11 attacks, with most of these lies laundered unchallenged on CNN.
Was sold to the American people based on falsehoods and lies.
The sales campaign that took place, I would characterize as aggressive deception.
Well, I wouldn't rule out a manipulation.
This was fraud, and I can't say that often enough. No mistake, fraud.
But today we aren't talking about Iraq or WMDs. We are talking about Gaza, where Israel is not only committing a genocide, but also preparing to launch a ground invasion on the besieged Palestinian territory, which will leave tens of thousands killed on top of the already 5,500 Palestinian men, women and children killed during the past 2 weeks. But here's the thing. Israel cannot commit war crimes and genocide without approval from its military and diplomatic benefactor, the United States government. But no US president can give his seal of approval to the slaughter of Palestinians without political support from a clear majority of the American people, which is where CNN comes to the rescue of both Israel and the United States. On any given day, you will see one Israeli spokesperson after another give his or her twisted version of events, propagating one lie and falsehood after another without ever being challenged or questioned by a CNN anchor. No follow-up questions, no fact-checking, just pure deceit and manipulation channeled towards American and international viewers. And it's not hard to see why, when you examine CNN's roster of journalists and commentators. First and foremost, there's Wolf Blitzer. He's not only the network's Washington, D.C. bureau chief, but also the international face of CNN. He began his journalism career at the ultra-Zionist and hyper-right-wing Jerusalem Post. But even more tellingly, he also served a stint as the public relations spokesperson for the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, otherwise known as the Israel Lobby. Then there's Dana Bash. She is the daughter of a Jewish rabbi, and the ex-wife of the former CIA and Pentagon Chief of Staff, Jeremy Bash. She has framed the Israeli-Palestinian conflict as a battle between good and evil. And then there's regular contributor Juliet KM. She worked for the Israeli defense firm NSO Group, which produced Pegasus, the illegal spy tool that spies on journalists, activists, and critics of the Israeli government, and was used by the Saudi regime to track and hunt down Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. But here's the thing. CNN manufactures American consent for genocide in the occupied Palestinian territories by performing public relations for Israel and dehumanizing Palestinians. This right here is typical. It's an actual exchange that took place between a CNN reporter and a Palestinian mother whose child was obliterated by an Israeli missile. This is how CNN conceals Palestinian victimhood, by constantly tying 2 million Palestinians in Gaza to the limited actions of an Islamic resistant group that most Americans find terrifying. This is how CNN swaps out victim for perpetrator, and this is how it pours never-ending sympathy on the criminal Israeli regime. For instance, it reports the displacement of thousands of Israelis from towns located near Gaza, but doesn't tell its audience that 1.5 million Palestinians have been displaced within Gaza during the past few weeks alone. And nor does it reveal that Israel has forcibly expelled 6 million Palestinians since 1967 in its quest to make Israel and Palestine a collective state exclusively for Jews. I mean, have a look at this. This Jewish woman, who was released by Hamas, praised her captors for treating her kindly and attending to all her emotional and physical needs. But CNN ran with this headline. Palestinians, no matter what they do, must always be portrayed as bloodthirsty killers, according to the network's editors. It might be subtle, but to the untrained eye, specifically Americans who don't understand the history and reality of the Israeli occupation or international law, CNN content is highly effective at manufacturing consent for Israeli war crimes and genocide, which is why a former Israeli Prime Minister confessed that objective journalism hurts his country's reputation.
If the international media is objective, it serves Hamas. If it just shows both sides, it serves Hamas.
The good news is this. People are finally waking up, as we are witnessing unprecedented support and solidarity for the occupied and besieged Palestinian people throughout the entire world. The occupation will ultimately be defeated, and soon. But bad days and even worse days loom on the road ahead, which is why this show remains committed to countering Western propaganda and saving Palestinian lives. Anyway, that's my time for today. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we kindly ask you please support our effort to expose and confront injustices in the Muslim world by becoming a member of this show at patreon.com/CJWorleman. We can't produce, sustain and grow this show without your help, and we offer exclusive benefits to those who do. But for now, good morning, good night, wherever you are, and stay blessed.